Hello friends, welcome to my channel for the Hindu editorial analysis of August 9. And guys, I really thank you for the wonderful comments which you have given me. It's really motivating. And guys, please feel free to give your opinion so that I could improve myself and make some awesome videos which could benefit you. And guys, if you like my video, do hit the like button, subscribe my channel and also share my video with your friends. So let's move on to the article now. So coming to the first article, Food for Action. See guys, this article is all about the National Food Security Act. So before going into this article, we'll just look at the background. What is the meaning of National Food Security Act? Fine. See guys, you just remember in this way, the main aim of the National Food Security Act is to provide subsidized food grains to approximately 2/3 of the Indian citizens. Fine. So it is an act to provide subsidized food grains. It aims to ensure that every Indians have certain nutrition value. Fine. So this is called as National Food Security Act. And guys, I would like to compare this with a similar policy of the government that is called as National Food Security Mission. See, the difference is that the National Food Security Mission aims to increase the production of food grains, but the National Food Security Act is to provide subsidized food grains to the people. Fine. So I hope the difference is clear. So this is the basic difference between both. And what we'll do now is we'll discuss the salient features of National Food Security Act. See guys, under this National Food Security Act, every person who is eligible will be entitled to receive 5 kgs of food grains. Fine. So the price would be 3 to 1 for rice, wheat and coarse grains respectively. And this act also has one provisions for poorest of the poor, that is called as Antyodaya Anna Yojana. Fine. Where they will get 35 kgs of food grains per month. Fine. So this is one of the important feature of the act. And guys, one more important point to be noted with respect to this act is that this National Food Security Act follows TPDS, that is Targeted Public Distribution System. Here the key word is targeted. The target means they will focus only on the poor. Fine. So under this TPDS, the state governments are required to formulate and implement a foolproof arrangement for the identification of the poor. Fine. So see, it is generally will formulate a rules and they will identify the beneficiaries. Fine. And it is only to these beneficiaries the food grains would be distributed. Fine. So this is called as TPDS. And one more important point to be noted with respect to this TPDS is that it ensures computerization of the beneficiary list. Fine. So each and every state government who identifies the targeted beneficiaries will have to go for computerization of the beneficiaries list. Fine. So you could have noticed, like for those who have ration card or family card, now you used to get messages. It is because of the computerization of beneficiaries. Fine. And it is the state government which will identify the beneficiaries with respect to this act. And there are also other features of the act. There are many features, but what I'll do is I'll just discuss the important points. And one of the important feature of the act is that this act provides for the creation of State Food Commission. Fine. So each state will have their own State Food Commission. And the main function of this State Food Commission is that it will monitor and evaluate the implementation of this act, and it will also give advice to the state governments and also the agencies who are involved in food distribution to implement this act better. And this State Food Commission will also has the power of civil court. Fine. It can also inquire into the violations of this act. Fine. And this National Food Security Act provides for grievance redressal mechanism at the district and the state level. See guys, at the district level, the body is District Grievance Redressal Officer who will be redressing the grievances, and at the state level, it is the State Food Commission. So the State Food Commission will hear appeals against the order of this District Grievance Redressal Officer. Fine. So this is a 2-tier redressal structure which this act has provided for. And guys, I would also like to make one point. This act was passed in the year 2013, but this act was implemented only few months back. It is because many states government were reluctant for computerization of the beneficiaries, and especially the states of Tamil Nadu and Kerala were delaying the process. But now every state government has computerized the documents and this act is ready to be implemented, and this article is related to that. Fine. So we'll move on to the article now. So coming to the article now, see guys, this article tries to say that the National Food Security Act has been suffered due to many political indifferences, but now as hope is emerged because the center has asked the Supreme Court to ensure that all the states implement the key aspects of this law. Fine. So guys, I would like to make a point here. There is a famous case with respect to this act, that is Swaraj Abhiyan case with versus Union of India case. Fine. See guys, Swaraj Abhiyan happens to be an political organization which formed after coming out of AAP. So this Swaraj Abhiyan case is an important case where the directives of the National Food Security Act was discussed by the Supreme Court, and this case also brought in the reality that several states government have not met the requirements which they should have implemented with respect to the National Food Security Act. And this article tries to say that the section 14, 15, 16 of the National Food Security Act is not implemented by many states, and even though implemented, it is only for the namesake. So the section 14, 15, 16 of the National Food Security Act require a state to set up a grievance redressal mechanism and a state food commission, which we saw in the background. Fine. So this article tries to say that these two should be implemented in order to monitor the implementation of the law. But many states, due to the political indifference, has not implemented this law, and this article tries to says that last year the food minister gave the statement that this act covers the whole country, but the reality and the facts does not comply to the statement. So this article tries to brings in few provisions of the constitution which is mentioned by the court. So that is article 256 of the constitution. See guys, article 256 of the constitution ensures that it is the responsibility of the states to comply with the law made by the parliament. That is, the state government has to implement those laws which is passed by the parliament. Fine. And even this National Food Security Act is passed by the parliament in the year 2013, which we saw. But the state government are reluctant to implement those provisions, which is a violation of Article 256 of the Constitution. Fine. So this article tries to say that the National Food Security Act, which is an important tool for social security, has suffered implementation due to political will. And this article in the second paragraph tried to say that the National Food Security Act has set the floor for the food security through the principle of universal access. See, this article even tries to explain the same thing. It says that even though not every citizen would require it, it is only the needy who will be targeted. That is, this article tries to brings in the figure. It says that 75% of the population in rural area and 50% of the population in urban area will be benefited through this scheme, and those are the people who will be targeted. And this article also tries to brings in few important points. It tries to say that this system should have inbuilt mechanism to allow entry for the new household. See guys, I told you that the National Food Security Act ensures computerization of the beneficiaries as a prerequisite. But what if a new beneficiary is to added? What if is not added then? So in this scenario, there is a need for grievance redressal mechanism. So that's what this article tries to say. The proper implementation of the scheme requires a full-fledged independent machinery in the form of food commission and district level grievance redressal mechanism, which the article tries to mention. And even this article tries to say that modernization of PDS, that is computerization of beneficiaries with the use of information and technology, could incorporate dynamic features to the supply of subsidized food to those who need it. See, we already discussed the point. So this article tries to say that while bringing in these sort of modernization, one could eliminate deficiencies and fraud. And this article tries to say that it is because of this, the Ministry of Consumer Affairs, Food and Public Distribution has been given specific directives by the court to complete the task. Fine. So in the crux format, this article tries to say that every state should implement this scheme properly, and it also tries to brings in the advantages of implementing this. Fine. And even this article tries to say that few states are better at running the public distribution systems than others. For instance, if you take Tamil Nadu is the best example for the distribution of food grains under PDS. But now, because of the documentation, the Food and Public Distribution Department of Ministry and Consumer Affairs can implement the task in an effective manner, better than the states. And even this article tries to bring in few facts. The article says that the food ministry data which is presented to the parliament shows that the present system reflect only 1,100 complaints from the beneficiaries in 2016, including those who are reported in media. So one could notice that it does not reflect the true scale of public grievances. See, it is only 1,100 for 75% of the population, which is not a true scale. Fine. So this article tries to say that the court intervention into this act is a meaningful decision, and the center has taken a right step to ask the court to make the state governments implement this act. Fine. So that's it with respect to this article. We'll move on to the next article. And guys, before going into the next article, I just want to make a view that the three articles which is presented in the newspaper today, that is one which related to the Usain Bolt, and the other one which is related to the political scenario in India, which is very much political in nature, and the other one with respect to the Iranian presidential race. So these three articles is not very much important with respect to the UPSC point of view. See guys, I am telling this because I have been getting comments that I do not cover editorials, but I'd like to say that I want to cover only those editorials which is important. See, at the end of the day, I prefer quality. It is not that I just take an article and just go through it in the simple terms. What I want is quality. Fine. So what I'll be doing in my editorial discussion is that I'll take those articles which is very much important with respect to the UPSC point of view, and I will analyze it with the background which can help you to write efficient answers. I personally believe making things simple can help you to write better answers in the UPSC. See, for instance, we saw about the National Food Security Act, and I know I am very much simple in my explanation, but what I believe is at the end of the day what you gain out of my video or what you gain after seeing an video. Fine. So at least you should try and make to accumulate few points. So that is what is going to help you in the UPSC examination. Fine. So what we'll do now is we'll move on to the interview. It is an interview with the Justice Shah, who happens to be a former chairman of Law Commission. So it is an excellent interview where different views with respect to the nationalism, right to privacy, even national anthem. So different opinions were present. So what we'll do now is we'll go into this interview and we will take only those points which is important for us and which can help us to write a good answer. Fine. So we'll move on to the interview. See, in the first stage, the interview talks about the nationalism. So what I want you guys is to define nationalism in an appropriate manner. See, the definition of a nationalism has many dimensions, but what I want you is to write an appropriate definition of the nationalism. Fine. So let's move on to the article now. So in this article, the law commissioner tries to say that if we restrict our understanding of nationalism, then we ignore multiplicity of views. Fine. See guys, nationalism definition varies from nations to nations, people to people. So the definition of the nationalism is a wide concept. So if we restrict our understanding of nationalism, then we have to forego many opinions. We may not include opinion of the others. Fine. So this article tries to compass the nationalism of the world and with respect to India. So this article tries to brings in the example of Nazism and the fascism. See guys, this, for those who don't know what is the meaning of Nazism and fascism, both belong to Europe and it is a part of dictatorship government. Fine. It is a stubborn government. So here the article tries to say that even Nazism and fascism is a sort of nationalism, but the only difference is that they were irrational and excessive. Fine. See, it's not that you have a good patriotism towards your nation so that you tend to believe that only your opinion is correct. So that's what this article tries to explain with the example of Nazism and fascism. And while if we compare to the nationalism with respect to India, then even you have many views with respect to Gandhi and Nehru. But the thing which is common between the Gandhian and the Nehruvian view is that both were anti-colonial. That is, both were against colonialism and it was not based on religion. Fine. See guys, I would also like to include a point here. Nehruvian nationalism is a sort of socialistic concept. Fine. So this article tries to say that today in India, we do not talk about inclusive nationalism. Rather, there is a situation of cultural nationalism which is emerging. See guys, inclusive nationalism means where we include the aspirations of all the people. But this is not the scenario which is prevailing in India. Rather, a cultural nationalism enforcement is taking place. And the author tries to emphasize that this is a culture of hate which is being practiced in the name of nationalism. For example, it tries to bring in the example of cow vigilantism. Fine. See, I hope everyone knew what is the scenario of cow vigilantism. If you don't know about cow vigilantism, then I have given you link in the description box. You can just have a go through, because there was also another article in the Hindu newspaper where I have covered cow vigilantism. So you can just have a go through. So in the name of cow protection, many are engaging in violence. So this is not a nationalism according to the author. Rather, it seems to be irrational. Fine. And see, even you can write many examples with respect to this cultural nationalism. For instance, you can write the example of Kannada flag. You can write the example of imposing Hindi and other states. Fine. And this author tries to bring in a famous word, an excellent word from Tagore. It says that when a nation becomes powerful at the cost of harmony of social life, then the day is the evil for humanity. Fine. I hope you can understand the statement. So here the author tries to say that we have removed the thoughts of Tagore in the present scenario. Fine. And when asked about the definition of defying a nation with respect to the boundary, then the author tries to say that it is very hard to define the idea of nation based only on the territorial boundary. See, here the author tries to explain that in before world, countries used to be demarcated with respect to the boundary and it was not a globalized world. So the idea of nationalism and the idea of nation was with respect to the geographical demarcation. But now, because of the globalization, people tend to be intermixed and people have intermingled so greatly that the differences is very hard to find out. So it is very difficult to define the idea of a nation only on the territorial boundary. And this article tries to say that if we allow a nation definition with respect to the territorial identity, then we may end up in a situation where we will have blind nationality and there could be a sense of irrationality which could be present, which is not good for the nation, which may also have extreme consequences. And the author tries to say that sadly this is the situation which is seeming to be prevailing today. So this article also tries to talk about the sedition law, and the law commissioner has given his opinion regarding that. And guys, for those who want to know the background of sedition law, I've given you link in the description box where I have explained the background with respect to the sedition law. You can just have a go through. So coming back to the article, here the author tries to give his opinion that we are in a situation today where any criticism is termed as anti-national or seditious. So it tries to brings in the example with respect to the wrongdoing or fake encounters in northeastern states, that is extrajudicial killing with respect to the northeastern states. And even speaking about these is making someone to tag seditious. And the author tries to say that in India we have a long history of fighting against the sedition law. It tries to brings in the history of Gandhi, Tilak, who has been charged under the seditious law during the colonial times. And here the author tries to say that the Supreme Court even agrees that mere criticism is not sedition, but this does not prevent prosecutions. And it tries to brings in a famous case, that is Kedarnath case versus state of Bihar, where the court has defined the sedition, saying that mere criticism or mere slogan is not sedition, rather this act should call for a violence. So this is the definition of sedition which is given in the Kedarnath case versus state of Bihar. But this article tries to say that when a FIR is registered, the interpretation of this law does not arise, and says that the trial for sedition itself becomes a punishment. It is only after that the Supreme Court comes into play or the court comes into play. So there is a broad scope of sedition law, that is section 124 of IPC, which allows the state to accuse anyone as seditious, and it tries to brings in the example whether it is in the case of JNU students or whether it is in the case of Arundhati Roy or cartoonist Asim Trivedi or the villages of Tamil Nadu who are protesting against the Kudamkulam nuclear power plant. See guys, I have explained everything about sedition in the link which I have given below in the description box. You just have a check on it to understand this comments better. Fine. And even this article tries to talks about free speech and the restriction which is imposed in Article 19.2 of the Constitution. See, this Article 19.2 of the Constitution is the restriction which the Constitution has provided us with respect to the freedom of speech and expression. Fine. So I hope everyone knows that our fundamental rights are not absolute. They are under reasonable restrictions. So this article tries to say that the restrictions which is inferred by the court is very narrow, and it tries to brings in few cases as examples. So this article tries to say that the showcase of criticism towards the government should not be shut down. That is, it should not be stopped. See, this article tries to say that there is no need to scrap the sedition law, but one should give them a proper freedom of speech and expression. Fine. It is not by the act of vigilantism, rather they should be encountered with proper jurisdiction. And this article all tries to talk with respect to the national anthem. So it is very efficiently interpreted. It says that the freedom of speech and expression includes that we also have the right not to speak and express ourselves. See, it is even our freedom of speech and expression. Fine. But the court has restricted our fundamental rights with respect to the national anthem, saying that making something compulsory like standing up when a national anthem is sung undermines the very meaning of this freedom of speech and expression, and says that it is the form of conscripted nationalism. See, conscripted nationalism means it's a sort of compulsory nationalism which is followed by the Supreme Court. And guys, it is the author opinion, but I'd like to give my own opinion over here. The freedom of speech and expression says that we have freedom not to speak, but even the Supreme Court judgment has said that we have to only stand up. Fine. It is not compulsory that we should sing the national anthem. What the Supreme Court has said that is we have to stand up during the national anthem is sung. Fine. So it is a sort of respect which we are giving to our national anthem. Fine. So see guys, this is my way of interpretation. And even in an interview, that is in the previous year interview, there was a question with respect to the national anthem where the interviewer asked that you are in a cinema hall and you see a person who is not singing the national anthem and also did not stood during the national anthem. So what will be your action on him? Fine. So this is the interview question which was asked previous year. I hope you can give this answer in the comment box below. Fine. So coming to the article now. So this article tries to say that with respect to the national anthem, even the Madras High Court in its recent order said that Vande Mataram must be sung regularly in the educational institutions, and the Madras High Court have failed to recognize that such actions of nationalism should be only resorted to singing or whether here we should stand up and sing. Fine. So there is a sort of chaos which is available with respect to the Madras High Court judgment. So the author tries to say that people sing national anthem. It is not because of the respect, but they are in an afraid that they would tend to get beaten up. Fine. So this is the interpretation which the author tries to give here. So this author tries to say that the judiciary is supposed to be the protector of individual liberties. It is indeed disturbing that it should itself mandate such restriction. And when coming to the view of right to privacy, see guys, even right to privacy have been taken by me in the separate video. So even I have given link in the description box. Please have a go through if you want to know the back. Fine. So even this author tries to brings in few cases with respect to the right to privacy. They talks about Mr. Govind and state of Madhya Pradesh and Nalsa case versus Union of India case, and says that Supreme Court has repeated that the right to privacy is under the constitution. So right to privacy is the part of constitution, and also tries to say that this right to privacy cannot be absolute. Fine. It is restricted by law and it is within the parameters of Article 19(2) of the Indian Constitution. Fine. I have explained you what is the meaning of Article 19(2) of the Indian Constitution. It is a restriction with respect to the freedom of speech and expression. Fine. So the author tries to say here that in the latest hearing, the court has observed that right to privacy as a fundamental right, and this has created an obligation on the government to bring in a regulatory framework. See, we need a regulatory framework, and the author tries to express his views that India is a nation where we do not have a privacy law or the data protection law. So such sort of judgment is a welcome move. And they also tries to mentions the types of privacy. For instance, the author tries to talks about the privacy of space, privacy of behaviors, privacy of decision, privacy of information. See guys, I have explained this all in the before videos which I have taken. I have given link in the description box, so you can just have a go through. So it says that privacy even refers to a right to be left alone. Fine. So there are many forms of privacy, and bringing in all the concept of privacy is a principle of dignity which is according to the author, and it is an excellent opinion which is given here. See guys, we saw here that there are many forms of privacy, and what the author tries to say is demarcating the forms of privacy or bringing in a structure to this right is not required, because the privacy definition has a wide dimensions, so it has to be decided on a case to case basis. Fine. And even Supreme Court has done the same thing, and the author also acknowledges it and says that it is a good move, and says that in this scenario the court must stand by the citizen. Fine. So that's it with respect to today guys. Thank you for watching.